There's about 20 eggs in each bag. If you would be willing to take a bag, fill it with candy, and bring it back to church on Palm Sunday, which is April 2nd. Does that sound right? Palm Sunday, April 2nd or 3rd. And if you can make sure that the candy is nut-free, so Skittles, Starburst, gum, very popular. So if you're willing to take a bag, I have them in the corner of the fireside room. So thank you.
Okay. We have some birthdays this week, but only one of them's here. Mr. Adams, Dad, as I know him, is celebrating his birthday today.
He's proud of it.
I know, 76th birthday today. Yes. Well, no, sorry, not today, the 25th. Both Greg and Jeannie have birthdays this week. I don't know how that worked out. As well as Jen, their daughter. So that's, I mean, weird, but sure. Rebecca Franklin and Ken Talcott both have birthdays on what day is that? Let's say Wednesday. And Avery Harker shares a birthday with Jeannie on the 24th. So, you know, I was jumping around there, but we got birthdays this week. And wanted to just remind everybody the Holy Week schedule is in the weekly newsletter, so all sorts of information on that. Laura talked about the Easter egg hunt, but we've got lots of other activities planned. The financial updates for the church are also in that newsletter. If you're not getting that, there's information on the video board that is out in the lobby on how to get it, get those. But if you are not getting the weekly updates, let Leslie, Gil, or Rebecca know. Any other announcements? What about prayer requests? Do we have any prayer requests this week? Joy.
My neighbor across the street, her name is Cheryl Williams. She's been diagnosed with breast cancer, early stage. She's having surgery Thursday.
Cheryl
Williams.
Williams. Anybody else? Sherry, you want me to?
Stephanie was here last week and she was diagnosed with Wiggins disease, which is an autoimmune disorder. She will have it the rest of her life. It is something that if they can give her meds for, it will get better, it will get worse. Once it takes her organs, it will become very dire from there. So she's still struggling.
Yeah. So please keep Stephanie Hunter in your prayers. Yes.
I shared a few weeks ago that my nephew, who lives in Oregon, was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and they're a little further down the road now. It has spread to several other areas, but he has such a strong faith and is just positive, and he just says he wants to be used in this for, you know, as a witness. And he's really been blessed. His treatments are going really well, and he has not had any side effects that they expected from his treatment. And he's feeling good, and that he could really use continued prayers.
What's his name?
Dugan.
Dugan. So Dugan, who is Renee's nephew. Other prayer requests? I thought I saw, Savannah, did you I thought I saw you raise your hand. Nope. Oh, okay. Thank you. George.
He's kind of really, she passed out a couple weeks ago, but now she's done an organ failure. We caught it in time to burst the problem, and now she's looking to get out of the hospital.
So George's niece, Connie, who had some organ failure. All right. I know one celebration that we have. Joy, you want to announce that one?
Alani
So Jeff Ryder and Aaron are engaged. And if they're watching online, spirit fingers for you. Anybody else have celebrations they want to share? Yes. Sarah's 8 months pregnant. I love it. Yes. Celebration for that. All right. Well, I would just ask that you join us in worship today, and thank you.
Thank you, Millie. That was a beautiful start to our morning together. Good morning. I welcome each of you here today. Whether you're joining us online or you're gathered here in person, your choice to be present in this moment is meaningful and appreciated. Today, I'm going to lovingly invite you into a time of exploration with me. This next hour may not feel like a traditional service, but I hope as we root ourselves in the tradition of drawing near to God, that we can find ourselves anchored. I hope it is one that we will all meet with vulnerability and openness. Today, we're going to be spending our hour together, deepening our understanding of spiritual practices. By my own admission, This is the kind of service I would have loved to have had years ago when I was just learning about my own personal worship style and beginning to understand what did or did not resonate with me. Serving as your spiritual formation pastor, along with the desire to deepen our understanding of spiritual practices, is what led me to the planning of the service today. Because maybe there are others out there like me who want to feel that their authentic path forward toward the divine is valued and seen, even though it may look and feel very different from others. I share today by no means as an expert or one who has not stumbled along the way, because I have. But instead, I am just relentlessly curious, with a desire to deepen my awareness of spirit. I don't presume to have all the answers, nor do I know the intimate details of your own spiritual life. But I would like to take this morning to partner with you as an explorer and adventure into an experience that I hope we can all have together. Someone who has been an expert for me is author and Episcopalian pastor Barbara Brown Taylor. Today, she will serve as our lighthouse as we just get a chance to dip our toes into the exploration of spiritual practice. I'm going to look to her a lot as our guide this morning. You will hear me reference her book, An Altar in the World, quite a bit. So if I say the book or my bestie Barbara, you will know who I'm talking about. Since we're going to embark on a new journey today, I thought a bit of a roadmap might be helpful. We will begin with doing 3 things. First, we'll define what a spiritual practice is. Let's take a bit of time to establish a shared definition together so we can all be working from the same understanding. 2, we will acknowledge the many examples of spiritual practices and how engaging in these with a mind-body connection can help us to recognize that there are altars everywhere. And then 3, we will then have a time of putting a couple of spiritual practices into actual practice. We will introduce a practice, give time for setting intentions, and then experience that together. It is my hope that our exploration today helps to expand any and all limiting beliefs that may pre-exist around spiritual practices or the ways in which they need to be conducted. I hope everyone, all ages and stages, can wipe clean any false requirement that we must do any of this perfectly and exchange it for just a genuine desire to grow closer to God. Let us continue as we share in singing hymn 154, Come, Holy Spirit, Come. Please remain seated as we sing this together. We will hear it played through a total of 4 times. We, as the congregation, will listen through the first time that Millie plays it. We will sing the second and 4th time, so we'll have the first and 3rd time as moments to reflect and check in with ourselves as we prepare for our time together. All right, so let's begin with the first part of our service, which is to establish a shared definition of what we mean when we say spiritual practice. Here is the Wikipedia version. A spiritual practice, or spiritual discipline, often including spiritual exercises, is the regular or full-time performance of actions and activities undertaken for the purpose of introducing spiritual experiences and cultivating spiritual development. There's nothing wrong with this definition, right? It is clear and it is factual and it defines what it is. But for today, I would like to expand upon it just a bit. So let's use this Wikipedia version as our foundation and let it hold the addition of the following quote from Barbara's book. Anything can become a spiritual practice once you are willing to approach it that way, once you let it bring you to your knees and show you what is real, including who you really are, who other people are, and how near God can be. This one feels a little more free to me, acknowledging and giving permission for the limitless nature of spiritual practices. It speaks a bit more of the inward and outward journey of being more human that we're all looking to experience. So for today, I would ask if we could use this one. So now we have our definition. Next, we are ready to move into our second section, where we're going to discuss some examples of spiritual practices and how they help us experience altars everywhere. Let us allow this next quote from Barbara to lead us into that conversation. There are real things that we can do, both in our body and in our mind, to put ourselves in a deeper awareness of the presence of the divine. If we were to divide that statement into two parts, we could pull apart the body and the mind section. So let's start with the mind. I would imagine that the mind is what a lot of people think about when they hear spiritual practice. We may naturally go right to the thinking of things like prayer, meditation, scripture study, lectio divina, daily devotionals, or mindfulness, all of which are great examples of spiritual practices, and all of which do take place in the mind, but they also take place in our body. Take the practice of mindfulness. One of the very first things we may do if we are entering into that time would be to engage in breath work. These varying and intentional patterns of breathing create a response in our body as they engage the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve actually connects our head to our heart. The brain sends signals to our heart to allow for emotional processing and other cognitive functions, while the heart then sends back signals to the brain during our high emotional states. Our mind learns to calm the body, and our body learns to signal the mind, all so they can work together. Our spiritual practices are made up of mind-body connection. For example, it was one thing for me to learn all about the Sistine Chapel in art history class in high school. I studied it, I researched Michelangelo's journey as the artist, and I dove into as many photos as I could. But it was a whole other level for me to stand in the Sistine Chapel and have my body respond to that energy of sharing that space. It wasn't the same thing as seeing it in books. It was so overwhelming, I was moved to tears. So I'd like for us to explore this idea a little bit more. Jesus himself said, "Do this in remembrance of me." Do this. He didn't just say, believe this or study this. He said, do. and we need our human bodies to help us experience being human. So what would some additional examples of spiritual practices that engage our body as well look like? These may include fasting, partaking in our sacraments, a pilgrimage or walking a labyrinth, yoga, being in nature, smudging a space with sage, music in its many forms, journaling, Tai Chi, the list is truly endless. How wonderful is it that we don't have to separate the mind-body experience. In fact, we get to do the opposite. We have the opportunity to use both in tandem as we engage in these sacred and personal moments, and we don't need to demonize one from the other. So now, let's take a minute to think about our own spiritual practices. What do we all do that helps us connect to being more human with ourselves, with others, and with God and creation? Here's one more quote from Barbara to assist in that thought. Human beings may separate things into as many piles as we wish, separating spirit from flesh, sacred from secular, church from world. But we should not be surprised when God does not recognize these distinctions we make between the two. Each is so thick with divine possibility that it is a wonder we can walk anywhere without cracking our shins on altars. This quote reminds us to remove limiting labels that we place on things, and it reminds us that everything is spiritual. There is no right or wrong way. Nothing is more or less worthy or deserving for your personal journey. So at this time, I would like to invite you to take out the piece of paper you received when you came in, and hopefully you have something to write with. And to all my young friends here today, I really want you to join in on this activity as well. I want to assure you that this activity is just for you. I will not be asking you to pass it in. I won't be asking you to share it. It is private for you. You can be fully honest in your response and trust that writing down something can really be impactful for you. If you don't have a paper or pen, we have people that are willing to bring that to you as well if you want to raise your hand. Thank you. Okay, for this time I have 2 instructions. First, write down as many of your own spiritual practices that you can think of, that you partake in your daily life. And 2, write down at least 3 spiritual practices that you've never done before, but you find yourself curious about. We'll give a minute for that. As you finish up your writing, I hope this exercise didn't have us separating our mind-body connection or judging what feels sacred or secular. If you find yourself doing that, feel free to remember back to our definition. Anything can become a spiritual practice once you are willing to approach it that way. In the book, Barbara talks about the way she hangs laundry outside like prayer flags, and she watches the wind spin her prayers over the tops of trees. The trees that have now made the clothespins that she is using to hang her clothes. Every time she bends down to grab another wet garment, she breathes in the grass and she raises up to smell the sun. So what is your laundry? Maybe you wrote down something that you love and you look forward to doing every day. Maybe you wrote down something that you once did, but upon reflection, that practice no longer serves you where you are right now. Or maybe there's something that you had never considered, and now you're allowing yourself to entertain everything as an option for spiritual practice. What I write down won't look like what you write down, and yours won't look like your neighbor's, and that is a beautiful thing. With spiritual practices, we aren't talking about an agreed upon consensus of activities, but rather a very personal part of you. And you don't have to know exactly what you're doing to start. You just have to start. And the practice will inform you of what you need to know. So, we have our definition of spiritual practice. We've begun to identify and recognize our own practices and their mind-body connection. The next portion for us to do is to expand upon this quote from the book. You've already heard a portion of it, but it bears repeating. As we incorporate these practices into our daily lives, we begin to discover altars everywhere we go, in nearly everything we do. This quote lives as a true testimony in my life. As I've gone deeper into my own personal practices, I too have witnessed altars everywhere. If I did not believe in the limitless nature of this statement, I would have missed out on so many amazing experiences. One that comes to mind is a story that I know Shane has shared here before, so let me just offer this through my own lens. Friends, if I didn't believe that altars were everywhere, I would have missed a magical moment that took place about 16 years ago. Shane and I were traveling. We were in Italy, sitting in a pagan structure, surrounded by people that we didn't know, nor did we speak their language. But in a moment that I won't be able to convey with you today appropriately with words, the sun streamed in perfectly from the oculus of the Pantheon, and it flooded over just the two of us as we sat on a cement seat. Without needing to speak to each other at all, we knew. We felt like we were the only two people in the world. Our eyes closed, but our chins lifted up, and we were bathed in warm, glowing light, and in that moment, I was present to Spirit. This Sunday's theme is Live in the Light, and that is what I hope transpires today. I hope that each of us connects with a spiritual practice that we can incorporate in our daily lives and our daily routine that brings us awareness into a deeper connection with our Creator, so that when the light comes pouring in over you in a building that was not built for God, you feel nothing but God. So we're now ready to begin the third portion of our service, where we will have the opportunity to engage in some spiritual practices together. Let's begin with our prayer for peace. Hopefully that will feel somewhat comforting and familiar to collectively share in as we start this section of our service. Up front, you will see candles. Throughout history of Christianity, a lit candle represents the divine light of God. Today, everyone will have the opportunity to come forward and light a candle for the prayer for peace. And to all my young friends here today, I would love if you were the first ones to come up and light your candles when it is time. For this practice, we will first take a moment of silence to allow each person to set their own personal intention as why we focus on being an instrument of peace. Next, I will offer our prayer for peace, which originates from the Sioux Nation. I will do this out loud, and then I will light a prayer for peace candle. As soon as I am finished, you are all invited, when you feel ready, to come forward, light your candle, and offer your own prayer for peace. When you return to your seats, we'll join in the collective energy of silently repeating to ourselves the following mantra: my light is an instrument for peace. This affirmation statement will be up on the screen should you need to revisit it. Once you're back to your seat, feel free to assume any physical posture that feels comfortable to you. Maybe you want to sit or stand or kneel. You can do this with your eyes open or closed. While you repeat this mantra, notice how it feels in your body. What is your mind-body connection that is happening while you say it? Pay attention to your breathing and notice where your thoughts go when you think about being a light for peace. I will then ring the bell 3 times, and this will signal that our practice for peace has come to an end. I invite us now into a moment of mindful preparation for our practice together. Please join me in prayer. Fill us with light. Give us the strength to understand and the eye to see. Teach us to walk the soft earth as relatives to all that live. Hold on to what is good, even if it's only a handful of earth. Our next spiritual practice will be to explore discerning future leadership alongside the World Church as we prepare for President Veazey's retirement. Mary shared with us last week that this process is something that we will be starting today as a part of our worship each Sunday. We also hope it'll be something you will find yourself engaging in your own personal time as you hold the selection of our new leadership in your prayers. This is a focused time to discern the next prophet president, but also to turn our hearts toward the kind of future church Community of Christ desires to be and where the call of God is for each of us amid this emerging vision. Mary has also selected a hymn to serve as further support for our discernment process. We, as the Olathe congregation, will be sharing in this hymn in some way each Sunday during the Discerning Future Leadership process. It is hymn 168, I Will Talk to My Heart. We will not be singing this today, but we will partake in reading of it as a spiritual practice that Shane will lead us through as a response. There's going to be an alternating rhythm each month between pray and share, that the focus is provided from the World Church. They are giving us a question to think about each week. This week we begin with prayer, and our question is, God, where is your Spirit leading us next as a worldwide church? We're going to use this question in 3 ways in our spiritual practice. First, the question will be read aloud, and then we will have a moment to either write it down ourselves or choose to just look at it on the screen. As we do so, I invite you to notice what stands out to you about this question. Feel free to circle particular words, make notes about sections that you find yourself focusing on. After a short time of silence, the question will be read again out loud. And after this, I would encourage you to close your eyes and notice how this question is showing up in your body. How do you feel in response to it? How are you breathing through this question? And then the final time, the question will be read again out loud, and I would ask that you would find yourself holding it as you offer your own prayer. At the end of these 3 steps, I'll ring the bell again to signal for the end of your prayer. And then as a collective response, Shane will lead us through the reading of the lyrics of hymn 168 out loud together. So let us begin with a moment of directing our intentions toward this question. God, where is your Spirit leading us next as a worldwide church? Feel free to write this down, circle words that stand out to you, or make notes about any sections.
God, where is your Spirit leading us next as a worldwide church? Notice where this is showing up in your body. How do you feel in response to it? How do you breathe through the question?
God, where is your Spirit leading us next as a worldwide church? Gently hold this question as you offer your own silent prayer.
Would you please join me in reading hymn 168 together? I will talk to my heart in the stillness. I will talk to my heart when I pray. I will let go of all my resentment till compassion is my inner way. Trust the stillness, trust the oneness, trust the way of inner prayer. Trust the stillness, trust the oneness, trust the life of God we share. I will watch all my thoughts in the stillness. I will watch all my thoughts when I pray. I will watch all the stream of my thinking till compassion is my inner way. Trust the stillness, trust the oneness, trust the way of inner prayer. Trust the stillness, trust the oneness, trust the life of God we share. I will dwell in the space of my oneness. I will dwell in that space when I pray. I will let go of all my divisions till compassion is my inner way. Trust the stillness, trust the oneness, trust the way of inner prayer. Trust the stillness, trust the oneness, trust the life of God we share. Amen.
For our time of giving today, I invite you to think about your idea of generosity. What does generosity look like as a spiritual practice, and what form could that take in your life? How can you be generous of time, talent, and treasure in a way that draws you into a deeper knowing of God? From Doctrine and Covenants 165, 6a, Beloved community of Christ, do not just speak and sing of Zion. Live, love, and share as Zion, those who strive to be visibly in one, among whom there are no poor or oppressed. The offering basket is available if you have a physical offering to make today. You are encouraged to place it in the basket at the back as you leave at the end of our service. May we all take a moment of gratitude for the gift of generosity. Our next spiritual practice is going to be one of solitude in nature. While I can't truly create this for us in the way that I would love to, I'm going to invite us on a short nature walk virtually. For just a couple of minutes, allow this time to be just for you in whatever way that you may need in this moment. You may feel connected to the visual landscape and find yourself enjoying the sights and sounds of nature. Or you might want this time to journal and reflect, or maybe you would just like to sit with your own thoughts and breathe in the silence. Whatever it is that you need right now, this spiritual practice of solitude in nature is for you. I know we've experienced a lot today on our journey through spiritual practices. But like I said in the beginning, we were really only able to dip our toes into this topic during this time. It has endless possibilities that it can hold for you in your life. It is my hope today that you felt we defined, acknowledged, and practiced, giving you more opportunities to connect with Spirit and to truly see that there are altars everywhere. Let us please stand for our hymn of sending forth and join in the spiritual practice of singing together hymn 568, God Who Touches Earth with Beauty. Whoever you are human. Wherever you are, you live in the world, which is just waiting for you to notice the holiness in it. So welcome to your own priesthood, practiced at the altar of your own life. The good news is that you have everything you need to begin.